Hello and welcome to CC Live, a brand new series of webisodes dedicated to keeping everyone connected during these extraordinary times. Here's a taste of what this episode is all about.
Dementia design and care are linked, they're intrinsically linked together.
We believe that vulnerable people particularly require a good environment to live in, and care homes are so important because people live there 100% of the time.
We look at the current climate again and the impact of coronavirus. I think the use of off-site manufacturing in this sector is probably going to be quite predominant.
Try to build from the start a sense of community and value. And that's not just the people who live with us, that's our staff members as well. We want them to feel belonging.
It's another jam-packed webisode today. In each show, we'll be having conversations with industry leaders and professionals from across a whole range of sectors who'll be sharing their expertise and experiences with you. There'll even be the chance for you to get involved, as we'll be hosting a live Q&A at the end of every show. Simply pop your question into the Q&A box below and we'll be putting the best ones to our guests later. And if you see a question that you particularly want to know the answer to, make sure you're using that upvote feature so we can make sure we answer the questions that matter the most to you. And you can also get in touch with us on Twitter by using the hashtag CCLive or email us on cclive@cartwrightcommunications.co.uk. Now, today's episode is all about how specialist design and experienced construction partners can revolutionise the way we deliver care in the UK and how the built environment can contribute to the lives and well-being of others. At the end of last year, 2 specialist dementia care facilities in Nottingham, which follow an innovative Dutch model, received planning permission to extend 2 of their 4 homes. The pioneering designs for Church Farm Care's Rusticus and Skylark sites were drawn up by AJ100 architect Leonard Design. I spoke to their dementia design specialist, Becky Smith, about how her plans are adding to the real-life experience of residents and also where she got her inspiration from too.
So my inspiration really always comes from people, and architecture is a very much team game. So really I speak for probably most of the architects and designers in the world. We design for people. And really, when you think about the healthcare sector, what better sector to look at than healthcare, and especially nursing homes and care homes, because these are the most vulnerable people in our society. And so to be able to design homes for them is just an amazing job to have. Really, if I have to think about one architectural inspiration, it has to be Hogwerk in the Netherlands. It's won so many awards. And I was lucky enough actually to visit and be shown around by the founder himself. So it's just everything about it. So the way that they built the architecture to support the concept, and the concept's all about how residents, when they're going into the home, they should be living in smaller groups of people with residents that they share similar hobbies and interests with, so that they're more likely to create friends. And you walk around and everyone is just so happy. There's such an atmosphere of love and happiness and enjoyment. There's so much colour and energy.
And of course, you specialise in kind of dementia care home design in particular. You talked a little bit about it there, kind of the people element of it. Is that what kind of drew you to that sector in particular?
Yeah, definitely. So what draws me to the sector is the thought that we're really making a difference in what we do. And my passion originally stemmed from quite a young background. So my grandma was diagnosed with dementia herself, so she lived in a care home. And it was just like the majority of care homes in the UK, there was nothing really wrong with it, and likewise there was nothing particularly special about it. I mean, it had good CQC ratings, and the nurses and the carers obviously thought a lot about the residents. She lived in quite a small bedroom, but it was fine. But it was exactly this just fine that was the problem. There was just nothing special about it whatsoever. And it got me thinking back then, there's so many obvious design flaws with it. Why are care homes still being designed and built this exact same way? And that's really what got me into architecture in the first place. And so throughout my academic kind of progress, I focused solely on understanding and analysing exactly how we can eradicate this stigma associated with care homes to create much better places to live.
And you mentioned there that you want to try and revolutionise the way that care homes are built after the fact that they've been built in the same way for pretty much ever since the first one was built, probably. Tell me a little bit about the key features of the designs that you've created, such as the curved corridors, and how these can affect people living with dementia and also the people who work there as well.
So there's thousands of key design features that we kind of implemented in Skylarks and Rusticus, and really the one sole element that joins them both together is the drive to create a community focus for both of these homes. So that is the key to eradicate the stigma around care homes and dementia design, is to create places where people actually want to come and visit. So for Skylarks, we reinstated the hydrotherapy pool. So this was going to be open to members of the community as well as the residents. And in Rusticus, we proposed a feature aviary in the sensory garden. So this would sit adjacent to the community cafe. The community cafe can hold dementia-friend sessions, and this becomes like the focal point of the home. And then, as you say, like smaller design features such as curving the corridors and half-height walls will help improve the visibility through the entire home, so that people living with dementia can navigate their environment a lot more easier. As a practice as well, we've developed our kind of top dementia design principles that we implement across all our project range, so whether it's healthcare or not. And this is like so important so that we can kind of create accessible, inclusive environments for everyone to enjoy, regardless of whether they're in a nursing home or not.
For people who are maybe watching who can't quite see how a certain way of building is designed can relate to delivering high quality and better dementia care, how do the two link and how can they benefit each other?
Dementia design and care are linked, they're intrinsically linked together. I mean, good design does take longer from the outset to achieve, but then the results last a lifetime, and good design not only affects residents, but it makes nurses and carers and care home managers and relatives' lives so much easier. So it answers itself, I think.
Becky will be joining us live at the end of the programme to answer your questions, so get them in now by typing in the Q&A box below, and remember to use the upvote function if you see a question you're particularly interested in having answered. Now, Church Farm Care's aim is to provide the best possible care every minute of the day to its 200 residents across its 4 homes. Patrick Atkinson is the director, and he told me a little bit about what makes Church Farm Care unique.
One of the main reasons is that the people who live with us are viewed as family members and not just residents. So we try to build from the start a sense of community and value. And that's just not just the people who live with us, that's our staff members as well. We want them to feel belonging. So our ethos as care is based upon the Maslow theory, really, of the hierarchy of needs, so that people need to feel safe. Now, nearly every care home provides that. So they feed people, they get them up, they look after them, they give them the medication if required. So they look after their general well-being. But we want people to feel loved. We want to give them a sense of belonging, a sense of community, a sense of worth. Maybe having the ability to wash pots, peel potatoes, just normal daily life. So that's what we feel makes Church Farm unique, that we really believe in that ethos and that the staff buy into it, and to give the staff that feeling of belonging and sense of worth as well.
And you mentioned there the concept of family and how important that is, and community. How much of a powerful thing can that be when it comes to the care you're delivering?
It's key to the care we're delivering because it's not just about task-driven care. It's about daily interactions, those moments. Our care is mainly, we're dementia specialists. So some of the people are in a different place. It allows to care for them in their stage in their dementia and look at the staff skills accordingly to make people up. So people become friends. It's about family and that real sense of community. And you'd see that in our homes. We have no uniform. So the staff look and mingle part as everybody. So it gives the staff that feeling that they are in there. They're not just a carer, they're a friend, and we're working alongside each other.
I mean, it's clear just how passionate you are about, creating this community within all 4 of your homes. What do you think it is that's driven you to invest in it? Because obviously you are so passionate about it.
I personally love design, and I think it's key. I think great design can deliver and improve people's lives. I also believe that an outdoor space is massive. really important. So we tried to create that. We tried to give everybody a view, if possible, so a window to the world outside. Some of our homes have got a view of a school, for example, so they can hear the noise of the children and see the school bus arrive and see break time, and it gives them something to talk about. You know, an occupation is sometimes just watching the world go by. All of our lounges have got a kitchenette, so we create that feeling of the kitchen being the heart of a home, which in most houses it is, even now with modern design. So there's that feeling where people can get involved. You know, we've got a resident who lives with us now who constantly says, you know, how would you get by if I hadn't have done that? So just a simple task like doing the washing up. So it's that involvement, and then that makes it worthwhile.
Absolutely. And I mean, you spoke there a lot about how you believe the design of a building can impact on the care that is given and received by your family members and by your staff. Just kind of what changes have you seen in some of your family members during this time as well?
We've seen quite a dramatic reduction in falls. You know, there's a reduction in medication. Light plays a major role into that. So people like daylight. You know, there's an often phrase used in this level of care, sundowning and things like that. So people like to roam, they like the freedom, we allow that, we encourage it, you know, so that's something that's actively encouraged. We enable people. So we feel that the environment, if you live in a good environment that's happy and positive, your well-being's happy and positive, your mood changes. You know, we're not instructing people, we're not having people sat around a room in the corners traditionally, where watching a TV screen with something on that they don't want to watch. We look at people's life histories. So we try and find out who they are as a person, and then cater for them. So if somebody liked reading The New Scientist, for example, you know, we would get The New Scientist. You know, we're not going to give them House and Country or whatever it is, you know. So we try and focus what we do and tailor what we're trying to deliver for their needs and what they like to be as a person.
And we'll also be joined by Patrick at the end of the show. So if you have any questions for him, make sure you get them in, and we'll pick the most popular ones to put to him and Becky later on. Now, moving away from dementia care to retirement living now, we spoke to Wayne Oakes from Dice Consulting about the different specifications that the sector demands and the challenges of finding innovative solutions.
Retirement living and care sector is quite distinctive in terms of the end user requirements, and these specific requirements are normally established very early in the project's life cycle. So we find as engineers that our input can often be overlooked at those early stages, but in actual fact our services are best utilised so when we're engaged at the concept stage. So, for example, when selecting a site or master planning that site, the transport engineers or civil engineers can help the lead designer to ensure that the design addresses the site-specific issues and utilises the sites to its full potential. In terms of the actual design principles that we incorporate into these designs, then we obviously still have to comply with British standards and Euro codes. But there are other specific standards which we need to consider, such as lifetime home standards, the DDA or Disability Discrimination Act, and HAPPY or Housing Our Ageing Population Panel for Innovation. And then in terms of the actual structural intent that's associated with retirement living schemes, we're now actually seeing a bit more of a push to a high quality end product.
You've gone into so much there that you guys do. And of course, today's episode is all about kind of creating communities through great quality design in dementia care. Just how much of that community vibe can you bring as engineers, and how much do you bring to that project?
Okay, so we all understand the benefits that good design can bring to all aspects of our lives. And I mean, you only have to look at the current climate that we're in at the minute with COVID-19, and we're all stuck indoors. And this is obviously particularly even more heightened within the retirement living and care sector. Changing demographics, such as an ageing population, growing pressures on the health and social care services, and national housing shortage have all created something of a perfect storm, which has resulted in much more emphasis on design and the end user experience. So we're noticing that a growing number of care and retirement living developers are now encouraging mixed tenure within those schemes. And this is a bit more of a reflection on the provision within the local population. We're actively engaged in projects which support more active living. So it's to try and encourage residents to get up, be active, move around. And one of the latest schemes that we've been involved in did include a bit of a state-of-the-art gym, some outdoor pavilion areas, and a yoga retreat as well. So due to the requirements of the end user, there's often careful consideration of sustainable drainage systems and other SUDs or landscaping features that are required to help facilitate the development and get it through planning.
And you talked there about a couple of the projects that DICE has done in the past and some of the innovation ideas. Are there any other kind of innovation projects that you've worked on and implemented in recent years?
We're starting to see some of the benefits of off-site manufacturing and learning being applied from other sectors. So as recently as last week, we were reviewing a number of feasibility schemes which are looking to incorporate a standardised extra care model. And essentially the idea is that this model could be replicated over a number of sites. Benefits are that it provides a quicker, more cost-effective approach to both the design and construction stages. And this particular product utilises off-site engineered components for the structural design of projects, which can be constructed from either low-rise or up to multiple stories, usually with a transfer deck structure found at first floor level. And in addition to that, individual rooms or open floor plans can be provided as required. So each model uses a standardised design that follows the best practice and latest regulations. And these standardised extra care designs provide a bit more certainty at planning, cost, and provides faster construction programs. I mean, if we look at the current climate again and the impact of coronavirus, I think the use of off-site manufacturing in this sector is probably going to be quite predominant because it will help to reduce the time and the number of various trades and operatives that are required on site at any given time.
We'll be putting your questions to Patrick and Becky very soon, so keep them coming in. But before that, it's time to get the thoughts of construction company Stepnell, which specialises in delivering care home projects across the country. Mark Wakeford, Joint Managing Director at the company, told me why care home design is imperative.
We believe that vulnerable people particularly require a good environment to live in, and care homes are so important because people live there 100% of the time. It's not like a normal home that you and I might leave to go to work or disappear off to go for a walk during the day. These vulnerable people have to stay there all day, 24/7, and they deserve the best that we can provide. Coupled with that, we've got people who are working there, and the working environment, again, for the staff that are employed in care homes, they have every right to be working in a fantastic, work-inducing environment to bring out the best in them. And I think one of the things we've learned over a number of years in construction is if we can provide those two environments, bring those two together to get the environments where people can live and work well together, then you can get some fantastic results.
And you touched there about kind of the criteria that you have been kind of researching and looking into over the last 10 years or so since Stepnell first started looking into this kind of area and branching into this industry. And you actually commissioned a report, didn't you, to kind of look into this and maximise the care that people can receive?
Yes, we did. We identified a significant need in the sector for new care home beds, and we recognised that the challenge was going to be around the price per bed that people paid. And so we did something that design and build contractors are very good at if they have enough time, and that was to identify the priorities required for an excellent care home. And we were introduced at a very early stage to Sterling Gold. And Sterling Gold is a mechanism, it's a metric for measuring how good your design of and operation of your care home is for people with dementia. And if you can get it right for dementia, you can get it right for everybody. And it's sort of passive, invasive design that allows people with dementia to feel comfortable and at home in a care home, which, let's face it, can be a pretty alien place when you've left your family house. And so the Step Care report was designed to take us from this is what the priorities are in building a care home with dementia. And it allowed us then to be able to deliver an economic solution to that by working from first principles. And we're very proud of the results. And we've built a number of projects on the back of that report that we carried out, all of which major on this idea of a small household of 8 people, and 8 people as a nucleus within a care home, provide that sort of family, domestic, homely environment.
I mean, yeah, it sounds like an absolutely fascinating report, and especially for people who maybe don't realise that there is this link between design and dementia, isn't there?
It's amazing, and it's a real eye-opener to see just how important some of the design decisions we take are. If I told you that picking the colour for the loo seat, the toilet seat in a dementia care home, effectively sets the colour scheme for the whole care home. It blows people's mind. You can't pick your paint until you've picked your toilet seat design, and then you're limited to a sort of a palette or a range of colours depending on the colour you pick for that.
It really is. It really is fascinating, and I'm sure it's something that people will find really interesting as well. Now, let's move forward to kind of today, because obviously at the moment we're being affected by lockdown and coronavirus that is going on at the moment. How much do you think of an impact will coronavirus and this lockdown have on kind of development in the care sector now and kind of moving forwards as well?
So I think it's going to have a significant impact. You can see in the short term there's going to be a real concern about going into a care home where particularly coronavirus may have taken hold. I think in the medium term, you're going to see an increase in prices as new operating procedures are enacted within the care homes. In the long term, though, I think we're going to see a return to good design. I think certainly if we take our step care, where we have a small number of people, 8 people in a household, then managing social distance and hand washing and these other simple procedures that will mean that virus control becomes easier will be more manageable. So I would hope that we'll get an increase in our step care. We might see increase in external areas where people can go outside to get more fresh air and the like. But I don't know, my crystal ball goes so far, but I'm not sure it's going to cover it all.
Thank you so much to everyone who has responded to our questions that sent in questions that during the programme, and thank you to everyone who spoke to me in today's webisode. I'm now joined live by Patrick and Becky. Thank you so much for coming in, both of you. I know you're both very busy at the moment, one way or another. We've had some fantastic questions coming in, so we're going to also launch the poll that we had at the beginning of the webisode. So if you didn't get the chance to vote in that, you can then get your vote in. I've just launched that for you now. So Becky and Patrick, the first question that we have had in is as follows. A big hindrance to good design is often the cost. So what are simple and relatively affordable things that care homes can do if they're struggling with their budget? Patrick, we'll come to you first.
A simple thing that we do and that we believe is really important is we have the kitchen area. I think kitchens are relatively affordable nowadays, or easily affordable. They don't need to be fantastic, they don't need to be huge, but it creates that sense of community and that social hub. Obviously there's challenges environmentally, I understand that, but we believe that we put them in every one of our lounge areas, and they really do create that sense of activity. And relatives and visitors, if we go back to them being encouraged, they can come and help themselves, make a cup of tea, get involved, and the staff can be involved, and people get that feeling of occupation, and they don't have to ask permission. So everybody's involved. So we think that's a really quite a cost-effective way to improve things quite quickly.
Just the small things, I suppose, can go a long way, can't they? Becky, this will be a good one for you. What things would you recommend be incorporated into design briefs for new builds and refurbishment care home projects to help create that sense of community?
There's so many cool things that we can do as architects to kind of promote the sense of community. I mean, one thing that we work with Patrick for Skylarks of Rusticus, and this is obviously a new build element, so but we designed these 2-bedroom assisted living pods, so they're detached from the care home. They sit on the same grounds as the care home, but they feel detached, and they have the option of providing 24/7 nursing support as and when required. So really it's providing like a respite level of care for people that might not necessarily be ready to go full-time into a care home. And that in itself creates a sense of community, because it is its own community within a larger one as well. And then it's things like constantly thinking about things that we can introduce into the care home to really promote that as well. So in Skylarks, we've proposed an ancillary bakery and a cafe and things, so that kind of draws people in. And linking back to your previous question, that helps generate a little bit more income as well for the care home.
Absolutely. Now, next up, we've got a question from John McKay at Riz McKay. Do you see that the good design helps to create a brand rather than a faceless care home, as it were, Patrick, would you say?
I've thought about this one. It's a really good question. It's a tough question. It's really tough to create a brand and not look like it's formulaic, which is something that we don't want to do. So, which is why we worked with Leonard and Becky in particular, because of her passion, and Rudy as well in the team are passionate about delivering something that looks great. And if you look at their designs, they're both quite different, and we wanted a different feel whilst trying to create this brand, because we equally want to get over there's this trust, and that people feel safe and they understand what we're going to do and our message, not just the people who live with us, but also the people who work with us, that they understand where we're at. So we wanted to create a great environment that people would want to live and work, and that feeling of outside as well. I believe that people's well-being is massively improved by having access to the outside world. So that's great. But in a quick answer to the question, we've got our name and our brand there, but we wanted all our environments to feel very, very individual and quite bespoke, because I believe we are all individual. And therefore, some families, what they see at Skylarks will be thinking that's fantastic. And some people, what they see at Rusticus will be thinking it's fantastic. And that's the idea, really, to create that feeling of difference.
Becky, would you say you have anything to add on to that one?
Yeah, because I feel that good design is its brand as well. So, and the architecture should really reflect that, and it should support that. So it should be delivering the good brand every day for its residents. So Church Farm is an amazing example, because it's an exemplar for its design and its quality of care that it delivers. And it's a good point actually to just say congratulations to Patrick and everyone at Church Farm Care, because 18 of their residents at Skylarks have recovered from coronavirus, and I just think it's a testament to the level of care that they deliver that's the case. So I think that the two, good design and good brand, are intrinsically linked always.
Absolutely. Now, next question we've got is, Patrick, I think this one will be a good one for you. Often families don't particularly like visiting care homes, as they don't feel they're inspiring or a very nice environment, I suppose. How do you promote this for the families that are wanting to come and visit their relatives? That's from John McKay again.
Yep. Again, it's a difficult time at the moment. People can't visit, so that's really challenging. So we're dealing with other problems of communicating with family, and that communication is really important. I think though, when care homes are open and people can visit, it's about having that place where they can go, where they don't necessarily feel they're being listened to or their conversations being overheard. That private space, which again goes back to Becky, it's about good design. And that doesn't need to be a massive lounge. That could just be a quiet corner if you haven't got the space. But going back to our kitchenette, which is a really simple thing, but a family member can come and make a cup of tea, help themselves with their relative, sit down, have a cup of tea. They don't need to ask permission. And that's what's, I think, is important, is that you're empowering everybody. So I think if family members feel very welcome, and there's not the structure, and that it doesn't feel hands-offish, for want of a better word, that that they feel part of the journey as well. And I think if a family is picking Church Farm, hopefully from the beginning they understand what we're about, and our staff team are very much about that. So they're very relaxed, and people should, they feel relaxed, and we'll have lots of invites. Rusticus, for example, was designed with the cafe, and that's not inside the building. So it's a cafe, cinema, social hub. And that was designed in purpose not to be inside the building. So it was a bit of a destination. it's not far, but it makes you feel like you've gone somewhere else. So a family can go and visit there, and we think that will be important.
Absolutely. Now, Becky, I have a question for you that is by no means a small question, but I think you'll be able to answer it. What do you think is the future of care home design?
Oh, I love this question.
Oh.
I think it's all about technology in one word. And there's like, this isn't an easy answer. So there's like several things that also go into this, but technology is the main one, because we're seeing so much cutting edge new technology that's coming into this sector, and we're quite proud to say that we're working in dialogue with quite a few cutting edge technology companies as well. So it's how do we design this into our schemes so that they stay flexible and responsive for the future. And although coronavirus is such a heartbreaking issue, especially for care homes, but if there's any light at the end of the tunnel for design, I think it's the way that it will impact architects and future designers to kind of create better care homes as well, so that they're more flexible and adaptable. And technology is all, I think, plays a massive part in that, because I mean, acoustic monitoring is one thing that's really becoming quite big, and then smart telecare hubs as well. And it's just fascinating, I think, to see the direction that it's headed and how it will impact management and running of care homes as well.
Absolutely. Patrick, where do you see the future of care home design going, do you think, from your perspective?
Yeah, I agree with Becky totally, really. I mean, me and Becky went to see a gentleman in Loughborough who'd, they were working on things like a cat that reminded you to take your meds and stuff like that. It was just bizarre, but, you know, it sounds really weird, but it is something that would be great in the future. So I think we all agree, me and Becky certainly agree, that a great environment is something that we all want to live in and working. You know, our sector's been really challenged with staff. So there's been, you know, it's no secret, there's been a shortage of people working in the sector. And, you know, if you want them to come to work for us over lots of other homes that are after their services, hopefully that's about a good environment. And that works with them as well. Technology is working in that sector to the staff, how we communicate with them. And all those things now are improving really fast. All our care plans, for example, are computerized now. So we use them on devices. So technology, our meds is now all device driven. So all these things are moving forward at a massive pace. And I do think what's happened recently will only promote that for people to work better and collaborate better to share best practice in the future.
Now, next question is from Joanne Rees, and she asks, what steps are needed to make this the mainstream method of design to break the current system to one with a more community focus? I think, Becky, maybe would you like to go first on that?
I think it's all about eradicating the stigma associated with care home designs, that it's so traditional to think that all the bedrooms should be down a long corridor and that's the most efficient layout and that's the only way it can be done. So it's really starting with changing the stigma associated to be more modern, in the sense that people don't want to live like that anymore. And certainly the standard is going up and up and up. And if your care homes kind of sit way down in the traditional approach, eventually they're going to get left behind. So it starts with kind of changing this level of thinking to be more up to date. People don't want to live like that anymore. People want to live in smaller groups. They want to create friends with the people that they live with. Similarly, like Patrick mentioned before, the staff is such a big one. We need to start thinking about the staff more and create an environment that they love to work in and they want to come to work. So again, it's creating facilities for the staff that makes them enjoy doing the job that they do.
Absolutely. Patrick, would you like to add anything onto that one?
No, Becky's right. And it's all about having a household model, and the traditional model of care really needs to change. But listen, I'm at the realistic end of it. You know, there is financial pressures, and I understand where care home people are and developers are, and it's all about beds, and the bank will be going, you need a certain number of beds. And I have all those conversations all the time. But we have to work smarter, because it is about community space. We don't want people stuck in the bedrooms all day. We want people out and about in a community. We want them involved in everyday life. We want the staff involved. and the relatives involved. And what we're striving to is the greater community involved, the local community involved, the church, the local school, you know, all those things come to our homes and sing, as they do many homes. You know, we're not alone. And the quality of care home, I personally believe, has gone up massively over the last 4 or 5 years. The quality of design and build is changed beyond recognition.
Would you say that that is down as well to a kind of the impact of technology in recent years as well, Patrick?
Yeah, I think it's down to how quickly the technology's definitely improved, how quickly people can build, the design focus, the energy efficiency of buildings, all the things that Becky's bringing in, that we're bringing in, you know, just down to lighting levels, lux levels, you know, having those coming on automatically when people walk down the corridor. They're simplistic things. Becky will have loads more that you know, that we've got. So yeah, technology's improved massively, and it's about the whole environment, isn't it? You know, everybody wants to live and work in somewhere they're proud of, and if you feel that sense of pride and worth, you'll look after it, and you'll want to come there, and you'll look forward to coming to work every day.
Yeah,
and that's key, really, in doing a challenging, you know, let's be honest, you know, not highly paid job. So they need all our praise, and especially in these times. So, you know, hopefully everyone who works as a carer will get the reward they deserve, and they deserve to at least be working in a nice environment.
absolutely. Now, thank you everyone that's been asking questions, by the way. They've been some absolutely fantastic questions. And as well, thank you for getting involved in the poll. Some really interesting results there. We've got 2 more questions to ask. The next one is for Becky from Craig Waldron. When you're talking about great design, what role does M&E and technology play?
Massive. And it's so important from the outset to get people involved from the beginning. So M&E, so important from the beginning of your design. You have to get consultants on board, because as we know, lighting, ventilation, heating strategies are so important for people living with dementia, because they ultimately affect their whole environment. So yeah, it's just the two, like, everything is interlinked. You can't have one without the other. So definitely.
And the last one, I think you can both kind of answer this one with your combined knowledge of the plans that are going to be taking place. This is from, where's the name? Sarah Boland. You've spoken about the external space being important. So can you both explain how the landscaping works with the buildings at Skylarks and Rusticus, as they will be when they are completed?
Shall I go for, well,
by all means.
So both, first of all, both Rusticus and Skylarks are very blessed in the fact that they're surrounded by so much greenery, and in fact both of them were in the green belt. So first of all, it was quite challenging to get planning permission at all, because they were both in the green belt. But luckily, for Skylarks alone, we received 47 letters of support from the community, who really stood behind the design and backed it all up. And for both schemes, we got planning permission through delegated powers, which was just an amazing achievement. And I believe a big part of that was designing it with the landscape in mind from the beginning. So for both Skylarks and Rusticus, we've got sensory walks going through the landscape. We've got little activity zones like chicken coops, and like Patrick mentioned before, we've got the ancillary cafe and the hair salon and the cinema, which is sitting within the sensory gardens. And it's all about, even if residents can't necessarily physically go out themselves, they're able to look from their bed out onto an amazing backdrop. And that's so important, that even as people progress through dementia and they reach the end stage and they can't physically get out, they can still experience the benefits of therapeutic landscape. And that's what we try to bring across for both our schemes.
Patrick?
Yeah, I totally agree with Becky. I mean, we are lucky and blessed in both those locations to have quite a large site in a lovely location. Skylarks is on a couple of acre site, so we've got a fantastic location. It's near a nature reserve, so all those things. So we have gone with the basis of making the best of the environment and developing a home and a ground that work together in harmony. And every lounge that we've designed with Becky will have a view So, you know, we've got a bakery coming there, all sorts of things as well to encourage visitors and occupation that we spoke about so much. But we have made the most of the grounds. Every bedroom there on the first floor has got their own little kitchenette, sorry, not kitchen, focus on it, their own little garden. And so they can go out and a relative and family member can spend time in there and create their own little space external to their rooms, which is fantastic. So we've worked that design. Musticus, as we've discussed, has got, again, equal amount of space, beautifully tree-lined, and we've created terraces and all sorts of different spaces. So it feels different and there's somewhere to go and there's a journey. And everything in that place can be a bit of an event. But we do accept we're blessed in those two sites.
They are. The plans as well look absolutely breathtaking. Now, before we go, just very briefly, we've had the results from the poll come in, and both times we ran the poll, it's interesting that the same answer came out on top. So I was wondering if you guys might be able to give us a bit of an answer. So the question was what people think are the main challenges or barriers to more innovative designs or community-led schemes in the UK care sector. And both times the answer was budget or investment from owners. Patrick, how do you think we can overcome this in future years to come?
I think it's going to be tough. I think at the moment, in particular, it's going to be tough. I know that nursing and care homes are having a really tough time. Funding's difficult, staffing's difficult. So now's perhaps not the best time to know where we're going to go. But I still believe that if you're going to do something, try and do it right. And we've got to do that right by innovative design. Look at the costing, look at how we work, look at making the building more environmentally friendly. So the cost of running it in the future, you might be paying more money up front, but in the future costs might be lower. And looking at it, you know, there's a massive word used in our sector that's called future proofing. And I've never understood that in all the time I've been in it because I don't understand how that is such a thing. It's about doing something that is right and that you'd want to live and work in yourself. And they're the challenges, you know, people, but I think it's about building the homes in the right location as well. And I think that will become more prevailing in the future. I think people will be more demanding of what they want after these times, and we'll see. So I think as care home owners, the clients, the relatives and whatever will drive us into decisions that they want to happen. Now, this will obviously rely on funding, but, you know, we'll see.
Yes, definitely. We'll see is a very good way of putting it, I think. And Becky, just any last words from you from a design perspective, maybe?
I think it's all what Patrick said, really, and it's about how the market's shifting in terms of demand. And like we spoke about before, I just think that people in the next couple of years will not accept some of the living environments that are currently on the market at the minute. There's just no way, if you compare a care home like Church Farm and a traditional one, which one would people rather go in? It's a no-brainer. So therefore we need to make sure that it's easier for me to say as a designer because I'm not sat where Patrick is, but we need to constantly make sure we're kind of like at the top of the trend and we're delivering the very best that we can for people, because ultimately it's down to whether you'd want a family member living in one place or another, and you'd always pick the higher quality one. So it should ultimately be down to that.
Brilliant. Well, thank you both of you for answering those questions. They've been really interesting. I'm sure everyone would agree with me. Thank you, of course, Becky, Patrick, Mark and Wayne for joining us today. We'll be back again in a couple of weeks' time, where we'll be joined by property, construction and infrastructure consultancy Perfect Circle to discuss how they're keeping employees and stakeholders engaged during this period of remote working. But for now, have a lovely weekend and we will see you next time.